Welcome to The Soul Space, the podcast that inspires you to discover your truth, ignite your passion, and align your life with the power of who you really are. I'm Georgia Rose, psychic astrologer. I share the cosmic roadmap that guided me through astrology, tarot, and inner knowing into authentic living. I'm here to help you decode your soul's cosmic story, reconnect with your passion, and create the life you are meant to live. It all starts within, and it all starts now in the soul space. Hey everybody, it's Monday night at 7 o'clock, and guess what? I'm in the soul space. Welcome to the show. I am Georgia Rose, your psychic astrologer. I practice evolutionary astrology, which is all about the journey of your soul. And tonight we're going to talk about, don't chuckle, no laughing. We're going to talk about Uranus. I had a chuckle. Bobby and I were just talking about the promos I did and what I was writing up about tonight's show. And I said, I had to be careful that it didn't sound like something everyone was going to make a joke about. So yes, we always make fun of the planet that is called Uranus, but it's a very serious planet. We're going to talk about that tonight. I'm going to give you a little bit of teaching about what Uranus means in your chart and where to find it and how to find it and what it looks like and the big blue planet. But as you guys all pile into the soul space, I'm just going to talk about my week a little bit, because I have to tell you that new moon in Scorpio that came through at the end of last week, it gave me so much energy. And new moons usually don't do that, but this one was on top of 5 of my planets. And all I did for 2 days straight was like clean out and purge closets and get rid of the old. So Scorpio energy was really revealing things for me and helping me get rid of things that I needed to get rid of. And I will tell you that it was a good feeling. I got a couple more rooms to do, and then I will be done with my Scorpionic Pluto cleaning. So I'm looking in the monitor, and my hair is sticking up like I have wings, which is a good thing, but not such a good thing. You know, I don't want to have wings coming out of my head while you guys are all talking to me. That's a little better, I think. So, so tonight we're going to talk about Uranus. And as you guys know, we always start every show with cosmic comedy. And what could be more fun than a planet called Uranus? It's time for cosmic comedy, where Mercury retrograde is the main character, the lunations are loony, and the stars are a punchline.
Hello, I'm Chaz Masterson. And this is Inappropriate Headlines.
So inappropriate.
NASA wants to probe deeper into Uranus more than ever before.
So deep.
Uranus, no joke, is leaking gas.
Stinky.
Uranus might be full of surprises.
Surprise.
Hubble just spotted something massive coming out of Uranus.
Ouchie.
Sorry, I had to do it. You know, I'm that girl. I just had to do it. So I hope you guys are all laughing, because sometimes we take ourselves way too seriously in life. You got to laugh. You got to have fun with it, especially when it comes to the stars. And believe me, 2025 has been a challenging year for a lot of us. So hopefully you guys are all laughing. Nothing like a little sophomoric humor to get us started on the show. So let's get started on what Uranus means in the chart. Last week we talked about Pluto. I'm going to go through all the planets in the next several weeks. And Pluto is transformation. And the reason why we call Pluto transformation is because usually it's where our soul's desire comes into the chart, and it reveals things as well. And it will bring transformation into our life. But Pluto is transformation in more like transmutation, because, you know, we always use the analogy of the butterfly turning in the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. It's transmutation. Uranus is really the planet of transformation, and we'll get to deeper in, explanation of that. But when you think of Pluto, think transmutation. It's going to transmute your life into a different area. We talked a lot about that last week. So if you want to see the video about that, you can go on my YouTube channel, Zenkuda, and you can watch that, or on this channel, Strong Island, and watch last week's video. And it's also on all podcast platforms. If any of that information was really super valuable for you, and you want to do a deeper dive into Pluto in your chart, Zenkuda.com, Zencuda, right behind me, is where you go to book a private reading with me, and we can go all over all the planets in your chart at any time. So Uranus is a planet that takes 84 years to go around the whole chart. So it spends about 7 years in each of the zodiac sign. Right now, Uranus is retrograde, which means it just went back into Taurus, where it was from, looking at my notes, it was in Taurus from 2018 until the beginning of 2026. Then, in I think it was July, if I'm not mistaken, it went into Gemini for a very short period of time. Why am I giving you all this history? Because right now, with Uranus headed back into Taurus, where it is, and where it has been since 2018 to 2026, the beginning of this year, all of the things that Uranus was touching in your chart are going to come back around for you to finally reconcile them in some way. So don't be surprised if in the next few months or the next couple of months that the energy from those years, those last 7 years, repeats. Now, this is also very important because come next spring, Uranus will be in Gemini for the next 7 years. So if you have a Gemini sun, moon, or rising, the planet of transformation, of sudden, shocking, liberating awakenings is going to be in that area of your chart. For all of us, you have to look and see where Gemini energy falls in your chart. And that's really where Uranus will be making most of the energy come 2026. But from now and for the next couple of months, we're still working on the planet in Taurus and bring up the last 7 years. So what does Uranus represent? Well, briefly, it represents liberation, innovation, rebellion, and sudden change. That's why it's known as the Great Awakener. So the Great Awakener, Uranus, is the archetype of innovation. Liberation is your key word. Wherever Uranus is in your chart, it's going to liberate you, but it does that by breaking up whatever is a block or something that's unhealthy for you in your life. So a typical Uranian transit or Uranian experience is maybe you've been in a relationship that you feel you can't leave because it would make you very insecure or financially unstable or some external reason. And you're not super happy, but you're going along to get along. This relationship really isn't good for you. Or maybe you think you're happy, but it's really hindering you from being your full potential and being authentic. When Uranus transits that part of your chart, your relationship area, more than likely that relationship will be broken apart. The reason being that Uranus in the chart wants us to align with our highest potential. And as we all know, sometimes we don't do what's really good for us. Sometimes we don't identify what's really good for us. So Uranus is that beautiful awakener who comes in and says, we're going to send a wrecking ball into this thing that's keeping her from living or him from living their full potential. And it comes in and it does that. Now, here's the interesting thing about the planet Uranus when you're going through that sort of energy and when you're in a Uranus transit. When you're in a Uranus transit, something is being broken apart in order to liberate you. And in the end, once you go through the transit, which can take sometimes a year or 2 years or whatever it is, I can tell by looking at your chart, while you're going through it, you really don't understand it. You're like, why is this happening to me? This is horrible. I just can't get out of this place or whatever. So it's when we're going through most of it, like 3/4 of the way through a Uranian transit, when we'll finally start to understand. And that's when the awakening comes. So it's truly about that three-pronged approach that I always take to life, where you have the breakdown, something happens where you're completely broken down. And then you have a breakthrough after you have to sit in the brokenness for a while. And then there's the breakout, where you bring that energy into your own wisdom and maybe the wisdom for others. So that's a Uranus transit. Now, we don't understand it while it's happening because the way Uranus works is it breaks something apart so suddenly that our nervous system and our own inner self has to catch up. So it becomes almost like something shocking that happens. Now, it doesn't have to be a breaking apart of something that leaves us bereft or in a loss. It can also be something broken apart and then something comes in very quickly that's better than what was. That's also can happen with Uranus. It depends on where it is in the chart and what else is, in placement with it. But Uranus's placement in our chart reveals where we're called to innovate, where we need to take risks that we have never taken and we are afraid to take. It will help us to approach life with a very fresh perspective. And we all know human nature, most of us hate change. So that's why a lot of people fear Uranian transits, but they're nothing to fear because in the end, they're bringing you into your full potential and your true awakening. So Uranus will highlight the areas of your life where we're meant to embrace something unconventional. It is the ruler of Aquarius, which is unconventional energy. I always talk about Aquarius as being like, the purple dinosaur or something. And so when you're having that Uranus energy come in, if you can identify it as that, if you go to an astrologer, you have a reading with me, and we identify, well, you're having some transformation due to the transit of Uranus in your chart, the best thing you can do is let it control. Let Uranus drive the car. Because what happens is when we resist the transformation, that's when it takes longer and we have more suffering. When we understand, okay, this has happened, this is my life now, I have to learn to live without this particular thing that I was holding on to, and we move forward, then it's much more gentle a transit. And I'm speaking from personal experience. I went through tremendous amount of Uranian transits the last few years, and right now I am still in a Uranus square. And it's not easy. It's, hard to let go, but in the surrender, when we surrender to the change, we surrender to the transformation, wherever that is in the chart, it really helps us to understand what it is that we need to release and let go of. It's when we keep pushing against it, I want this relationship, I want this job, I want this career, I want this home, I don't want to move, I don't want to, let go of something. That's when it gets really, really rough. So if you guys want to put in the comments if you know where Uranus is in your chart. Uranus, what does it look like? Uranus is almost like a radio antenna with a little thing in the middle of it. So it is definitely an energy that you want to, I'm going to put in the comments, like if I can find a picture of Uranus, I'll put it in the comments on YouTube for you guys. So, whatever house, I'll go through the houses in a little while so if where Uranus is in your own charts. But it's a tough planet. Now, what I want to say is Uranus also is not just happening in our charts, it's also happening in the globe. So what kind of effect is Uranus going back into Taurus going to have on the globe? It's going to have effects on financial markets. It's going to affect food supplies, things like that. And we've seen a lot of that in the last 7 years. So collective themes, collective meaning the population at large. Uranus in Taurus has over the last 7 years shaken foundations of money, right? We've seen Bitcoin and all kinds of different banking systems come in. We've seen banks collapse, things like that. Values, our own personal value, food systems and stability. Uranus retrograde, which it is now going back into Taurus, and it will be there until April of 2026, invites reflection on how we define security, resources, comfort. So where in your life have you, run complexes where you're afraid to let go of something because that's how you define security? Do you find security by being in a relationship? Do you find security by being in a certain home or a certain job or a certain religious culture or social culture or group of people or whatever? So wherever you have that feeling of security, that is where Uranus is going to have some transformation. And it's about coming into our own agency and being able to do that in a way that really is authentic to us. It's not coming into our agency to be in deprivation or have detriment in our life. It's being powerful enough to understand I can let go of this thing and still meet my potential. So I'm going to, if I can, I don't know, can you put a picture in the comments on YouTube? I don't know. I'll see. I don't think you can, actually. No. No, you can't. Oh, well. So I'll post a picture on my Facebook page of what Uranus looks like. So if you guys want to look for it in your chart. I'm going to post a picture of the planet Uranus. Just don't get any ideas. Sorry, it's funny. This is what the planet symbol for Uranus looks like. And then I'm just going to put the photograph up. So if you hop over to Zenkuda Soul Space or Georgia Rose Soul Space, the symbol is there. That's what Uranus looks like. That's what it's going to look like in your chart. And I'll go through the houses. I see Sarah just put up her info, so we'll go through that. So those are the things that we're going to see. So especially now that it's retrograde, it's more powerful. We're all feeling it more powerful. The collective is feeling it more powerfully. So you can expect disruptions in financial systems, technology regulation. You know, AI is going to come through when Uranus goes into Gemini in April in a big way. But right now, if you've noticed, if anyone's invested, the stocks for AI are going down a little bit because Uranus retrograded into Taurus. When it goes into Gemini in April, it'll go back up and soar again. So the lens that you want to look at is Uranus retrograde, which it is now, will be till April, asks us to revisit karmic lessons around attachment to material stability as well. So maybe you're staying in a relationship or a job or something because of material stability. That is very much a Taurus type thing. Taurus likes the three-dimensional world for its creature comforts. So Uranus is going to go into Gemini in April, and it'll enter Gemini fully after its retrograde period in April of 2026. And I want you all to write and make note of that date in April 2026 because it'll stay there until 2033. And this is going to be a very dynamic change. We're going to feel that energy shift because the themes are going to shift out in the world. And the shifting themes are going to be artificial intelligence, education, communication, and network. The last time that Uranus hovered around an air sign like Gemini, the internet was born. And so you want to make sure that you are staying in technology. I know that nowadays there's a generation that like doesn't embrace technology so much, but you have to, because the way this is going with Uranus in that part of the zodiac over the next several years, it will no longer be an option to be tech oriented. If you want to function in the world or do anything, you will have to have a certain level of technology at your fingertips and be able to do it. So, and that's for everyone on board, because if you don't do that, as you age and mature and grow older and the world is changing at such a humongously fast rate, you're not going to be able to navigate anything. So it's very important to embrace technologies in the next couple of years. Expect breakthroughs in how humanity connects, but also challenges with misinformation and overstimulation. You're going to see a lot more, retina scans for ID, facial recognition, things like that. I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the next 5 years you walk through airports and it's just facial recognition, no, documents needed, that kind of thing. That's really where this is headed, especially with Neptune going into Aries next spring, which is all about the face and the head in some ways with Aries energy. You're also going to see Uranus in Gemini awaken the collective mind. We're going to have really good discernment as AI and technology takes over, because it's going to be so easy, not just for misinformation, but for delusions. What is real, what is not real? That's all Gemini energy. So Uranus there is really going to create shocking and sudden, inventions, innovations. And we are going to have to really have a conscious use of technology and adapting to it, because it's going to be coming at us really, really fast. So that's for the whole collective. So the world in general. And then, of course, it's going to have some things in your chart depending on where it is. So one of the affirmations that I have for Uranus going forward, planning on your 2026, is I embrace curiosity and innovation while grounding my mind in wisdom and truth. It's going to be very important in the future, in the near future, for everyone on this planet to know what truth is and be able to discern that in their own minds. Because we see so much artificial things that it's getting skewed. And when Uranus, the planet of innovation, of liberation, of freedom and individuality, goes especially into Gemini in April, you're going to find that there will be, before then, a mass output of delusion, of things that aren't real, of AI bots, of things that are constructs. And the reason for that is because it's such a strong technological type of energy. But as things change, there's also a contingent on Earth here in the three-dimensional world that doesn't want those things to change, that will use the expansion of technology in order to control. So when you look at the way your own habits are with technology and with AI and things like that, that I don't even know what they're going to be called yet because they're yet to be invented and will be this coming years. Think about how you are responsible and how you stay in your own integrity using those things, because there's going to be a lot of organization out there by the global controllers to use those things to control, and not always in a high octave way, not always a good way. So you have to really go into your own power and your own authenticity. And that's really what Uranus wants. It breaks apart and breaks up things that are not for our better good in order for us to live in our own authenticity and our own higher power by breaking the old patterns. So through Uranus, we discover the power of living authentically, the power of breaking old patterns. And think of the word pioneer, which is a very Aquarian word also. And we have Pluto in Aquarius now, ruled by Uranus. So when the planet of the soul's desire is in a sign ruled by the planet of transformation, transmutation and transformation are married in those years, those next 7 years, starting in 2026. When transmutation and transformation are married, a lot of really strange things can happen, but a lot of really good things can happen too. So you got to take your power and you got to stand in your power. Because by aligning with Uranus, we discover the power of living authentically and breaking old patterns and pioneering new pathways. And when you put that in a negative frame of mind, it's kind of scary, isn't it? But you can't live in fear. So Uranus serves as a reminder that true growth comes from embracing the unexpected, challenging the status quo. That's why it's known as the planet of rebellion. But most of all, trusting in the unfolding of the unknown. Like, I know in this energy that technology and artificial intelligence are going to be like nothing you've ever seen before. You can't even imagine it yet. But I also know that as that unfolds, I have to be able to ground in my own humanness. And if I don't do that, I can get carried on a wave that isn't real. And I want to stay in the authentic part of me, the real part of me. So we have to stay grounded. And sometimes that even means something as simple as limiting how much we talk on the phone, how much we use devices, getting back to just real conversation, grounding yourself in something. So so Uranus through the houses. So Uranus through the houses is, I'll go to comments, a few comments. Hey, Trisha, I got to look on my thing because they're scrolling up now. Where am I here? I have to go to YouTube. Okay, who I got here? Hey, Sarah. Thank you so much for always being here. Stephanie's here. Hey, Steffers. Trisha's on. Hey, Trisha. I know that the comedy thing. There was so much on the internet I could have taken about Uranus and doing the cosmic comedy, but I went there. I took that one. So she's Uranus in Virgo in the 9th house. Sarah's Uranus in Libra, 10th house. Huge sign numbers for me. 10, 13 degrees. In the 5th. Okay, so we're going to go through that. So I'm going to go through definitions, and then I'm going to look at what they are writing in for them. So if Uranus is in the first, and this is going to be Uranus in each sign, it represents where the awakening will manifest in your life. Like, for instance, if it's in Aries, it would be pioneering, freedom. But I'm going to go through the houses first. So in the first house, it would be identity and revolution. Like, if you have Uranus in your first house, you're going to be very rebellious about the way that you are in the world personality-wise, especially like sometimes somebody with Uranus in the first house, their appearance will be very avant-garde. They will express themselves in a way that's very different than the norm, maybe a weird hairdo or lots of piercings or tattoos. But in the first house, Uranus is going to awaken you as to not just how you look and your personality, but your own personal identity. What do I identify with? And when you are discovering that identity, you may, be a little bit revolutionary or rebellious, especially if someone is repressing you and wanting you to be a certain way. You will absolutely rebel against that. It's like, the Catholic school kid or the private school kid that has to wear a uniform and, keeps club clothes in their car, and changes every day. That would be like a Uranian thing in the first house. In the first house, it's going to also awaken you to have you been playing a role in your life that really isn't you? And when Uranus transits that first house or is in your first house natally, you will be very sensitive to being authentically portrayed as who you are, and you will not be able to live in roles or constructs that are not authentic to your particular personality. The second house, it's going to be your values and your finances are going to be very shook up by Uranus in the second house. That's going to be all about your personal security, what you identify security with. And when Uranus transits the second house or is in your second house natally, you will have transformation and sudden, change in regards to what you hold dear for your self-preservation. Many times when Uranus goes past the second house or is in the second house, what happens is we'll lose or have a lot of financial reversal or whatever is your security. If it's family, if it's the home, like that will, be a loss or taken away in some way. And the reason that happens is to show you that you have your own inner resources for your own emotional stability, that you don't need those external things. In the third house, it's all communication. And when you have Uranus transiting your third house or in the third house natally, it's going to be very much radical change in communication, shifts in communication. Maybe you will, have some kind of a speech impediment, or you will not be able to speak for a while, or you'll constantly get sore throats or something like that. And a lot of times when Uranus is in the third house, we see people with a very weak throat chakra. It could also be that you break out and, you've always been repressed your whole life and everyone told you to be quiet, shush, shush, shush. And then all of a sudden you're doing like a radio show or you're singing or something. It could also be a loss of voice where you have been using your voice to maybe communicate things that were not authentic to you. And now you can't do that anymore. And there's a radical shift in your communication style. It can also be a radical shift in communication as far as speaking your truth. Maybe you've always said what you think people want to hear, or you've just gone along to get along. And now all of a sudden Uranus hits your third house and you just can't lie. You just have to let it rip and tell everybody off from everything that you thought they wanted to, that you want to authentically say. In the fourth house is going to be family and home upheaval. Usually when Uranus transits your fourth house, if things at home and your family and your home life is not in order and to the best of your potential and really, pushing you forward and strengthening you in your life, then it will fall apart because it would be a relationship or a family or a home environment that is suppressing you or blocking you from your real path in life. And so there will be some kind of an upheaval there for Uranus to show you that you're not in the right place. The fifth house, creative awakening. This is where Uranus really wants us to shine our solar light. And by that, I mean whatever creativity you have within you, whatever creativity is coming forward that you've been suppressing or has been suppressed. As a kid, you weren't allowed to use the whole box of crayons. Now you're going to become an artist that just splatters color all over the place. Or maybe you have abused some of your creativity. You have a beautiful talent and you haven't taken care of it. Uranus will come in to take that away, either temporarily or permanently, to show you that you are to be functioning either better with it and it will bring it back to you, or that you can function without it. Could also be something that's very creative that you feel you can't live without. And you're so devoted to that you're worshiping it and not allowing your true path to come forward. A Uranian transit there will take away that talent or ability to show you what you really are without it. Sixth is work. Health routines will be disrupted. A lot of times when Uranus goes through someone's sixth house, where it's been for me these last few years, it'll be a series of health issues. I remember when Uranus hit my first house, immediately I had all this dental work that needed to be done. It's just when it retrograded, the day it retrograded back into Taurus, I ended up in the emergency room on Halloween with some issues. Fine, I'm fine. But it's really the work health balance. If you are very healthy and you take care of yourself and you're living your life healthy to your full potential, then you won't have anything disrupted in that area. Same with all of these areas. If you've done your deep inner work and your family life is really good, then you're not going to have a disruption. Remember, Uranus disrupts things. It breaks things apart that we really shouldn't be around to begin with, or that are just blocking our full potential. So in the sixth house, that work and health routines. It's your daily routine. Sometimes Uranus going through your sixth house or your sixth house natally won't even be health. It might just be a disruption in your daily routine. You get married, you get divorced, would be family life as well, but just something that affects you daily. A spouse retires and all of a sudden he's home all the time, or you retire and that affects your daily routine, or you get a new job after being home for a while, or something like that. It definitely affects your day on the daily. Seventh house, partnerships redefined. When Uranus is going through your seventh house, where it's going to be for me in Gemini, it means that you're going to have either disruptions or your partnerships are going to be really redefined. For me, I think this is actually going to be a very good thing. I think that it is actually going to anchor in some partnerships that I've been working on for a really long time, both business-wise and romantic. So when Uranus transits your seventh house of partnership and relationships, what'll happen typically is if you're not in that such a good partnership, business partnership, relationship, friendships, whatever it might be all of the above, whichever are lacking and not allowing you to be free and who you really are, they're just going to be broken apart. If also, yeah, they're just going to be broken apart. And in the relationship house, what I was going to say is also that can even be family. If there's someone in your family who's narcissistic or who you don't get along with for whatever reason, it could be karmic, it could be whatever. When Uranus goes through that house of partnership, it's going to break up that relationship, really cause disruption in order for you to have to look at it and get what you're supposed to get from it as far as wisdom. Eighth house, transformation of intimacy and shared resources. So when Uranus goes through the eighth house, or you have eighth house Uranus natally, it's all about other people's resources, inheritances, taxes, like anything. You might get a debt from someone, or you may get a windfall from someone. But it's also, that's the house of deep, intimate transformation. It is sex, also intimacy, but it's also the intimacy we have with ourselves. Have we done our soul work? Have we done our spiritual work? Have we really done the deep work in order to come into our full potential? If you have, or you're in the process of that, when Uranus goes through the eighth house, it will deepen that. It'll bring about deep, deep transformation, which isn't easy. But if you have not, and you've swept that under the rug your whole life, you've been in denial, you haven't really been soulful, you haven't done your deep inner work, when Uranus hits the eighth house, it's going to be like a wrecking ball, and it's going to bring up all this disruption so that you have to sit and look at yourself. In the ninth house, it's about radical beliefs and spiritual awakening. When Uranus goes through the ninth house, it usually, or you have Uranus in the ninth house natally like I do, it usually will mean that you have a life where transformation is how you find your belief systems. Usually something will be disrupted, and that brings you to God. Ever since I was a little girl going through tremendous trauma at a very young age, I was like 11 or 12 years old, and I used to listen to like Billy Graham and Norman Vincent Peale and go to church with my mom. And I was like, I'd have all these positive mental attitude posters all over my room. This is like at 12. And I used to read little pamphlets that I'd mail away from Billy Graham and Norman Vincent Peale, and like all these, I was reading, like at 12 years old, I was reading Positive Mental Attitude, W. Clement Stone, and all those things that are like my Bible. But it's because that ninth house Uranus, whenever trauma or tragedy came into my life, I've always been led to deepen my spirituality and belief system, find the true meaning. And so when Uranus hits your ninth house and causes a disruption, it is a disruption that will culminate in your spiritual awakening and your belief system. Very, very much so. You will get your radical beliefs sometimes from your Uranian transits, wherever they occur. But when they're in the ninth house, it's really that life. 10th house is your career revolution. Whenever Uranus goes through the 10th house, normally what happens is something will change with your career, your vocation, and the way people see you in the outside world. A lot of times it can be a fall from grace or a promotion, but it will change. Typically on Uranian transit in the 10th house or Uranus in the 10th house, natally, you will have many different careers and many different jobs. But with Uranus in the 10th house on a transit, it'll almost be like, I guarantee, however people at your job or work view you or the way you're held in regard, it will do a flip-flop. If you're held in really high regard, you're going to get booted off the throne. If no one ever recognized you during a Uranian transit, you're going to get completely recognized. It just always flips it and transforms the energy of the career house. Typically speaking, when Uranus goes through someone's 10th house of career, they'll be like, oh my God, I just got fired from my job. And they'll call me for a reading and I'll be like, oh, well, Uranus is in your 10th house. This isn't you didn't get fired, you got liberated. This is about your liberation, babe. This is about you. Something else better is going to come. It might take a while, go through the trenches, but that's what it's about. And that's what every one of these houses, as I describe, is really about that. It's liberation. It sucks. It's like going through, like we're on the African Queen, that old movie, and we're going through like the leech infested waters, but we get to the other side of the shore and we're like, oh, I get it now. I get it now. I understand why all this happening. And it really was the best thing that ever happened to me. Of course, it didn't feel like that when I was, traveling through the mud and the muck, but it is. 11th house is the collective and community innovation. Whenever Uranus transits your 11th house, or if you have it natally, it's all about groups of people, your tribes, where you go and feel comfortable. Typically, if Uranus is transiting the 11th house, it will cause disruption. You'll get thrown out of a group. You'll get excommunicated. You'll get exiled in some way. And it's really because you shouldn't have been there anyway. You just didn't know it. If you have Uranus in the 11th house natally, you will have many different groups of friends in your life because they're going to keep changing. People come in, people come out, people come in, people come out. And it's all for your growth and liberation. 12th house is spiritual liberation. Any 12th house transit is a tough one, but Uranus going past the 12th house is really tough because it will break apart a lot of things and you'll see a lot of decay in your life that you weren't aware of before. And it's a lot of really deep subconscious breakthroughs. It is absolute deep soul work. Uranus in the 12th house or transiting the 12th house you're going to do really, really deep soul work. It's gritty and muddy and everything, but it's, So what I'm going to say to you guys is wherever that is in your chart, and if you want a reading, then kuda.com, book your reading, because I'm fast filling up for December. You want to, welcome the awakening and trust the disruption. I know it's really hard, but trust the disruption as divine realignment, because that's really what it is, divine realignment. So I just want to answer Sarah and I think Trisha. So Sarah has Uranus in Libra at 10 degrees in the 5th house. So Uranus in Libra is going to be natally for you, your creativity. That 5th house is all about a creative awakening. And I've always felt this about you, Sarah, like writing a children's book or illustrating or painting or something creative is going to come to you like at this time in your life. Like not when you were younger, not that you're old, but I know that you aren't like young. And I feel like that's going to come to you. Like there's some kind of creativity that was very suppressed in your life. The 5th house is also children. So when you have Uranus in the 5th house, you're going to have a lot of disruptions with children. Sometimes that can mean, people that are, maybe have miscarriages, or it could be people who have a lot of children. It's something to do with disruptions with children. It could also mean that you have problems, or I hate to use that word, challenges, let's use, with children or grandchildren. I know you have some of that ancestral karma in your life where you are taking care of second generations. And so that's Uranus in that 5th house is there. But it's there to awaken the childlike nurturing in you. And like, I know you take care of your granddaughter, and like when you're with her, the connection there is because you need to be lighthearted and be childlike. And that's what that Uranus in the 5th house wants for you, to awaken that beautiful childlike perspective of you. And, maybe there's a children's book there that you're going to write or that you're thinking about, and let it come out and blossom, because the 5th house is really shining that light in the world that is authentically you and showing your creativity to the world, your solar light, as we call it in astrology. Trisha has Uranus in Virgo in the 9th house. Of course you do, babe, because we have the same thing. So whenever you undergo a disruption with Uranus in your chart, or Uranus natally in the 9th house, it's going to bring you to God. It's that simple. Anything that happens brings you closer to the occult or closer to your spiritual life. And almost every trauma in your life, you'll find it's bringing you to an awakening of your belief system deeper and deeper. That's Uranus in the 9th. It's all about the radical beliefs, the spiritual awakening, a lot of people with Uranus in the ninth house are prone to have beliefs that are very different than the beliefs they grew up with. So whenever you have a disruption, it's also going to be questioning your own identity as far as religious beliefs go. You'll have crises in your life once in a while where Uranus will come in, depending on where it is in the chart, transiting, and will disrupt your belief system. And you'll be like, do I really believe this or not? You know, and your belief systems will keep changing in perspective. Okay, Stephanie says, oh my God, everyone's going to hate me at work. No, they're not. That's not going to happen to you. But you may change professions. You may become like, the marketing social media guru that you are, my baby, Stephanie. Stephanie Kalanoff, you are like the best social media person. So I was going to say, it's not depressing. You're probably going to go on to a bigger and better career one day, but you'll always be my person. I'm looking on my comments here. Uranus in the seventh house, Joan, Uranus in the seventh house is going to be all about your relationships. Usually when you have a very heavy Uranian chart and it's in the seventh house, it's going to be, you may go through relationships in your life, or you may have a lot of your awakenings with relationships. Like you'll meet the guru, or you'll meet the guru when you have a breakdown of another relationship, or you are feeling in detriment, or you lose someone through death or whatever. And all of a sudden you have an awakening from another relationship that comes in, and your relationships are going to be your source of wisdom and transformation in your life. Uranus in Libra. Uranus in Libra is definitely to do also with relationships. It's going to be balance and in the relationship aspect of your life. I would say that Uranus in Libra is going to make you have disruptions to do with the way that you handle conflict will be one thing. And the other part of the Libran energy also is, don't forget, like I always say, Libra is all about balance, but it's about the balance you have within yourself. Librans always look for balance in the other. So sometimes with a Uranus in Libran chart, you may find that a relationship is taken away or broken up or disrupted in order to show you that you have to go within to find your own balance before you can expect it from a relationship. So that would be a Uranus in Libra thing. And Sarah says that's, so that's definitely it. Sarah says that makes so much sense that she's been getting signs about finding joy. It's that childlike innocence, in that fifth house. But also that fifth house is showing your solar light. So I'll bet you there's a children's book inside you somewhere, Sarah. I really do. So as Uranus is going through this time in Taurus and going back to Gemini, which is the future, remember this, wherever Uranus is in your chart, and call me for a reading if you really need to find more about this. We can do Pluto too. Remember, Uranus is the awakener. Even though when we're going through it, it can feel really rough. And Uranus is a rough transit. It's a lot of transformation. But as we're going through it, it's teaching us lessons that we will learn once the energy culminates. So remember, it's the awakener. It's not doing these things to you. It's doing these things for you. So reflect on where Uranus is in your chart and how it's calling you to awaken. In Taurus, where it is for all of us collectively right now in transit, it's going to be awakening our self-preservation mechanisms. What does safety look like to us? And how can we give that to ourselves without relying on external resources? What can we pull in from our own resources to make self-preservation and safety and security real in our lives? What do we need to change? And then always remember that disruption is not chaos. I say this often on the show. Disruption usually leads to the soul's freedom and liberation. When something is being disrupted, you have to believe and you have to understand that the universe is much more kind and loving than we are. So when we go through a disruption, it's the universe saying, we have something better in store. Let this go because it really isn't good for you anyway. So I hope that you love this show. And if you did and you found any of this valuable, please share the show. And I'm going to leave you with this affirmation tonight for your natal Uranus. I honor my inner revolution. I honor my inner revolution and allow my uniqueness to guide my soul's evolution. So let go whatever is being disrupted in your life. It's a gift from God above. And you can find me on Zenkuda Soul Space on Facebook, Zenkuda Official on Instagram. You can find me on my website at zenkuda.com to book a reading directly there, and on YouTube, where there's over 250 videos all about astrology and spirituality and just life in general. Zenkuda on YouTube. Thanks so much for tuning in, you guys. I will be here next Monday. And for those of you in the States, happy Thanksgiving. Remember, you do have something to be grateful for. Make sure you show that gratitude today. Thanks so much, guys. I'll be here next Monday night, and I'll see you at 7 o'clock. Share the show if you liked it. Bye-bye.